And we're very happy to have her here, and she's speaking on gift-giving, mothering, and ancient ways.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and welcome all the new friends. It's very, very nice to be able to talk to you this evening. It is my sheer luck to be involved in this community of gift-giving and otherworld, Matriarchal Studies group. And I'm relatively a newcomer to this group, so I am very busy learning new stuff. And maybe I am not giving you anything new or anything more profound discovery in this community of learners, but probably I speak from where I stand, and that may add something to the community. So I will start from where I am situated and how I link with my previous studies to this new endeavor in gift-giving and matriarchal studies. So as a way of introduction, I would see as a sort of contrast to matriarchal studies that I want to tell you that Korean society, where I was born to in the middle of the Korean War, 58 years ago, is actually described by somebody as one of the most ideal types of patriarchal society. But that was only a very recent construction of probably 500 years. We had among the sort of acclaimed 5,000 years of history of Korea, and we had 3 queens previous to the 10th century. So actually, when the ideal type was perfected in the last century or 19th century, that was not the truth all over in the tradition of Korean peninsula, but a very recent construction. So as a women's studies practitioner, as a feminist, I thought my job concentrated on the dismantling, deconstructing patriarchy, and critically analyzing patriarchy was a feminist job. But then after about 20-some years, there has been a rising expectation that we should provide some kind of alternative visions. So that's the point where I met Matriarchal Studies and Gift-Giving Society. Just to go over how I simplify a model of patriarchy. It's, I guess, everybody's common knowledge that, but it has been very strictly practiced in the kind of a middle class of Korea in the past 500, 600 years. That patrilineage is recorded strictly in the family tree called Chokbo, and it is continued through son's succession. And women move to husband's house and patriarchality. And there is a very interesting contradiction that the first woman to appear in our new money in note is someone who is renowned for her as a mother of a very famous Confucian scholar, but she is herself a painter, artist. But she, if you read all her story and her son's story, she wasn't a patriarchal person. She spent most of her time in her own natal home and commuting between the two places. So although she was picked up by this Korean society as the ideal mother type, she in fact was a very independent woman, and also probably suggestive of the time when patriarchality was not an established rule of the time, 14th, 15th century. With no doubt, not anybody really, most people just go undoubting of children taking the father's, the husband's name, but that also is changing now. That is patriarchy as a family system, but patriarchy as a social system involves with historical progress in domination and subjugation of groups by force, and the invention of slavery, and development of kingdoms, empires, and colonizing habits develop, and through that rules and skills of domineering forces have been trained. And schools produce ideologies, male supremacist and racism, and the ownership is developed, concept is developed, and the military institutions, arms race, all sort of extend the strength, ordering to force, and then violence. Next. We all share the knowledge that the patriarchy is built on sex segregation, gender division of labor, and prohibition of women from learning. And chastity is very important because the male line has to be protected, and gender hierarchy of values that men are respectable where women are less so or inferior. And in this setting, the best ideal type of a woman is a mother of successful sons. And the Confucian society respects the filial piety, that respect towards parents, and in that regard that men and women, or fathers and mothers, are not discriminated against. So the later life is the only time that women in patriarchal society are treated equally. In this society, the relationships among women are always juxtaposed, dichotomized, and because having sons is very important, and taking concubines is rationalized. So wife versus concubines, and because chastity is important, sexual behavior is the most important criterion in judging women. And then at the later stage, mothers are controllers of their sons' wives. So the relationships among women are hierarchical, competitive, and jealous, and conspiratory, and that is how misogyny is being reproduced amongst women, not only men. Why in her later life actually mothers can change the society if they're any women who can change the society. It is actually the mothers who are in the later life, because she can have the influence over her sons. But why doesn't she do that? It is because the power, whatever power she has, comes vicariously through her sons or her husband if she's loved by him. So it's never a direct power she has. And this strict sex segregation rules limit her to private spheres, and their information about social spheres is very limited, and therefore their influence over public affairs is very much limited. Now, coming from this patriarchal society, I move into something, some different society. That was actually pushed by my contact with gift-giving society, that in order to have a real experience of being with a social atmosphere where you can actually taste what it is like to be among gift-giving society. So I actively sought a kind of society where I can do that, and it was my luck to be able to find a way into a Mosul society. It is truly, as Heide said yesterday, included in her talk that she wrote about this society, and it is much confirms what she says, is confirmed through my observations, though limited. Mosul society I visited was situated around Lugu Lake in Yunnan province in China. It borders with Mekong, Vietnamese and Thai Mekong River upper part, as well as Sichuan province. And because of its very attractive geographical location, there has been a very sharp increase in tourism. And it was closed until early 1990s. And so in the last 15 to 20 years, that the scene has changed drastically. And there has been a lot of misunderstanding of the culture surrounding around their famous marital custom called sese. I'll show you later a video clip of one of their expats made, but there are just a couple of pictures here. This is a domestic scene in Kadang of where the clan mother is the central figure. There is a hearth, always a fire is burning there, and there is a kind of an altar that they pay their respect each meal. Whenever a new present is received, that's the place where they're put first, where the flowers One of the Mosul person is quoted to having said that Mosul people are said to be backward because of their matrilineal system, but it gives people great happiness, and maybe and Mosul people don't fight, and women have high status. So actually what they say backward is their male chauvinism. And also a scholar called Eileen Walsh said that the ethnotourism reinforces also cultural self-esteem and boosts local confidence that matrilineality does have extraordinary and inherent value. That's an interesting viewpoint amongst the very pessimistic viewpoint when we observe this flourishing tourist activities going on with accompanying, what you can imagine. 1956 study showed that not all 95 households were matrilineal, but it is mixed. But the singularly patrilineal families remained only 5%. So you can say that basically matrilineal descent, but the society is so flexible. So when they do not have female heir to the succession line, then they can take on the male descendants. Actually, just to say very quickly how their family life is characterized is that the mother can live with their children, both children, without having to let them go as long as they want. No son or daughter would marry out, and they would stay with her all their lifetime. That is a model, although it may not always happen, but that is the model. So Itu family means a physical house as well as members residing in the house. Goddess Gamu is adored, and their creation mythology is female centered. There is a couple of proverbs which are officially acknowledged in that province, that flesh against flesh is soft, and flesh against bone will bruise. That is a way of explaining why matrilineal succession works better than bone, meaning a stronger or male line. And chickens hatched out of the same brood do not fight. The children of one mother are united. Just to explain the Sese, the Chuhon marriage system, some people say it's not a marriage because there is no marriage ceremony nor traditional form of married life. So it is a visiting relationship rather than marriage. And it satisfies sexual relationships as well as generational continuity. And then the couple or the partners do not lead their separate economic unit, and the child-rearing responsibilities, conjugal duties are not shared. It is the mother's, child rearing is the mother's activity. And there is no ideology of chastity, no desire to possess, and thus no jealousy. Sese is where the man visits the woman during the night and leaves early in the morning. So actually they are not seen. They come up to the woman's room in the night, and then there is no acknowledgement of other family members of their partnership until the baby is born and becomes 100 days old. When they have a birthday celebration, the biological father comes with a small gift and with his relatives. But that is not also necessary or essential part of it. So this practice makes the name of the tribe, the society, as a place that people do not know of their fathers. But then the people say, no, we know. I mean, 70, 80, 90% of the children know their fathers, but they are not as close to their maternal uncles or significant as them. And Ha Junhua was saying that their freer sexual behavior doesn't mean that it's free sex as known in the West, and it often misunderstood, so that Chinese tourists come and treat some of these women as prostitutes and approach them as how much is it to visit you tonight? And so insulting the inhabitants. Around the hearth, yeah. Maybe we should go down. Yes, go down further. Sorry, yeah. Discussing the sexual relationships around the hearth, which is a family sphere, is not allowed, and there is partly protecting privacy, because their relationships may not work out, and so they may have other partners. So it is in respect of that relationships they keep quiet about who they sleep together. And the incest taboo forbids sexual relations with matrilateral relatives up to 4 degrees, whereas ignore heterolateral ones entirely. Clan mother, called Chomo, is the symbol of authority and sacredness, and that all sacred things have the suffix or prefix of mo, meaning mother. So Luguho is called Mother Lake, and Gamu Mountain is Mother Goddess Mountain. Yeah. A scholar called Kristen Matthew has done research of history and found that 19th century record of Chinese Sui and Tang had extensive reference to countries of women near Tibet border, and it is called the Nuguo, and its eastern Dongnuguo is very can be seen as identical to the preceding inhabitants of Mosul society. And to quote, this new woman's kingdom or woman's country has 80 towns, and it is ruled over by a woman.
over 40,000 families and 10,000 soldiers and ministers of state are called women's deputies. They receive and transmit the order from the interior, meaning the palace. And she continues to say that, it's the sovereign, the following is the continuation of the quotation from that historical reference. But what Matthew tries to do is to find the proximity of the Mosul shares with Nasi tribe in terms of researching language and the history and the clan names. And interestingly enough, there are two versions of chronology, genealogy, and one version has 4-syllable surnames, taking on both mother's and father's side, which is old Tibetan practice. And during the time, the course of time that Nasi, which was exposed by the invasion of Manchu Qing Chinese emperor, got sort of Confucianized and dropped the practice of putting the mother's name. So that shows that examination shows the proximity and the communal root of Nasi and Mosul. And actually the Nasi has town. Town. Yeah, I need to, and double click.
I don't have next one?
I need to, right. This is this is the characters. 5 minutes, sorry. Nasi society has these characters, and also if you follow what Matthew is saying, that it is shared by Mosul too, but at one, in the point of time, got lost. The shamans in Nasi are all female now, but there are also records of female shamans, and that gender warfare must have been because that male shamans have their names called a wife of somebody. So this is to show that interrelatedness of Mosul and the ancient kingdom, a woman's kingdom. So if this is added, the historical root of a woman's country, then we can say there is a matrilineage, matrilocality, and matronymy, and probably large-scale social system based on maternal principles. But it's for the further research. Heide said that economic and social level, as she explained yesterday, and I'll have to skip that. 그다음에요. 그다음. Yeah, 그다음으로 넘어. Yeah. 그다음이요. So go to the point of political dimension Heidi was talking about. And she was saying it is based on the consensus, delegates to the council, and so there is a kind of grassroots democracy. But we can compare this with sort of larger scale trace of matriarchal society, as in the woman's kingdom. Now, my next connection is